Why do humans doubt? What is the purpose of doubt? Let's think about a detective. For a detective, doubt is a tool for reaching the truth. They question the evidence in their hands, the eyewitnesses, the suspects, the rumors, and when necessary, even their own thoughts. But they do not continue doubting forever, because their goal is to reach a conclusion so solid that there is no longer any reason to doubt it, and to reveal the truth. In a way, a person searching for truth is much like a detective. At this exact point, René Descartes steps onto the stage and asks a radical question. What if everything I believe to be true is actually false? What if all reality is nothing more than an illusion? What if I am inside a dream right now? Descartes realizes that truth and falsehood have become tangled together in his mind, and he wants to eliminate this confusion. To explain it, he uses an analogy. Imagine a basket filled with both fresh apples and rotten ones. If you do not remove the rotten apples, eventually the good ones will decay as well. Then the solution becomes obvious. Empty the entire basket and inspect each apple one by one. Descartes applies the same method to his own thoughts. He temporarily suspends all of his beliefs and decides to accept only the ideas whose truth he can be absolutely certain of. He explains this approach with another example: the construction of a building. To build a strong structure, you first need a solid foundation. In the same way, to reach true knowledge, one must first establish a firm intellectual foundation. For this reason, he sets himself the following principle: I will never accept as true anything about which I can have the slightest doubt. René Descartes doubts everything: his senses, his experiences, even reality itself. But during this intense process of doubt, he realizes something important. If he is doubting, then he must be thinking. And if he is thinking, then he must exist. Thus, he arrives at the famous conclusion: I think, therefore I am. This statement becomes the very first piece of knowledge that Descartes accepts as absolutely certain, because even if a person doubts everything, they cannot deny the existence of the self that is doing the doubt. According to René Descartes, the senses are not always reliable, because human perception can easily be deceived. Even during a simple magic trick, our eyes can misinterpret what they see. Therefore, it may not be possible to reach certain knowledge by relying only on the senses. Descartes takes this idea even further and introduces the dream argument. While dreaming, the things we experience feel completely real to us. However, when we wake up, we realize that the entire experience was only a dream. This leads to an important question. What if we are inside a dream right now? René Descartes divides thoughts into three groups. 1. Imaginary thoughts. These are thoughts created by the human mind, for example, creatures such as mermaids or unicorns. 2. Sensory thoughts. These are thoughts acquired through experience and the senses. For example, knowing that fire is hot. 3. Innate thoughts. These are ideas believed to exist in the human mind from birth. From this point, Descartes arrives at the idea of God. The human mind contains the idea of an infinite and perfect being. Yet human beings themselves are limited and imperfect. This raises an important question. How can an imperfect being produce the idea of an infinite and perfect being? According to Descartes, nothing can come from nothing. Furthermore, the cause of an idea must be at least as real as the idea itself. Therefore, the source of the idea of God cannot be human beings. According to Descartes, the source of this idea can only be God himself. René Descartes asks the following question: why would a perfect God create an imperfect human being? According to Descartes, the human being is a limited existence positioned between nothingness and infinity. God has given humans two fundamental faculties: reason, free will. Human beings make mistakes because they possess the freedom to choose. Although reason is limited, the will often exceeds those limits, leading people to make judgments even about things they do not fully understand. This is where the source of error emerges. Therefore, according to Descartes, the cause of imperfection is not God, but the free choices of human beings. According to René Descartes, the human mind and body are two fundamentally different substances. The mind, or the thinking thing, certainly exists. The existence of the body can be doubted because it depends on the senses. According to Descartes, a person can imagine themselves without a body. However, they cannot imagine themselves without a mind, that is, as a non-thinking being. Because thinking is the essential quality that allows a person to be certain of their own existence. This idea leads Descartes to his famous mind-body dualism. According to him, mind and body are two distinct realms of existence that are different from one another, yet still connected. The ideas of René Descartes were criticized by many philosophers in later periods. For example, Immanuel Kant raises the following objection: existence is not a property. According to Kant, the existence of something does not add a new quality to it. In other words, existing cannot be considered one of the properties of an object. Modern science has also introduced criticisms of Descartes' mind-body distinction. In particular, studies in neuroscience show that physical changes in the brain can affect thought, memory, and personality. For example, a person who suffers brain damage may experience changes in their way of thinking. This suggests that the mind may not be completely independent from the body. Descartes' greatest contribution is the following idea: to reach the truth, one must doubt everything. However, for Descartes, doubt is not an end in itself. It is a method used to arrive at truth. His true goal is to reach knowledge that is so solid and certain that no doubt can remain. At the end of this search, he arrives at his first, undeniable truth. I think, therefore I am. Thanks for watching. See you in the next story.